We have a little bit of a parasocial relationship with our editor, I would say.
Parasocial. Please define the term.
Oh, you've never heard parasocial?
No, what's it mean?
Parasocial is a one-way relationship, commonly among influencers and their audience.
I see.
So basically, just if you have a really asymmetric interaction with someone.
Where he hears us talk a lot and I don't know what Naz's voice sounds like.
That's true.
I've only texted with him. You've spoken to Naz, haven't you?
I spoken to Naz.
You interviewed him at the beginning, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that might have been online. You know, Matt, you give me a lot of credit for interviewing people, but I'm like the most efficient and lazy.
You actually asked ChatGPT to interview him, didn't you? I know you, Seve.
AI interview. How do you feel about AI interviews?
I feel like have you seen a movie, The Idiocracy or just Idiocracy?
Yeah.
And he goes in and the robot's like, enter your social number, and he's like, I don't have one, and I just, hello, I have one, and like whatever. And it's like, oh my god, is that the future we want to live in? You're talking to this fucking thing, and the thing is, at least today, we haven't got human-like artificial intelligence. I'd say, honestly, I think we have AGI, in my opinion. Hot takes.
That's a very hot take.
The reason I think that we have AGI already is because we have something that is extremely intelligent, perhaps not as comprehensive as like extremely disciplined humans in every sector, but extremely broad. So it's definitely intelligent. It's definitely very good, if not, competitive with people in a lot of ways. It's generalist, as I was saying, and we've seen LLMs applied to like just these insane, wild scenarios with this ridiculous breadth that you apply it to something as the default, and then you fall back on another model if you have to. That is the mechanism of working. So I think we've got kind of mid AGI at the moment, but I think it's only getting better from here.
Yeah. I think like I want to believe that when we have AGI and when it'll mean something to me is when I believe it will surpass human capabilities, like any human's capabilities, like that, like nobody is going to be better than that. Like we have that for chess.
In any discipline?
In basically, in essentially.
But the one AI has to be better than you better than the collective world's experts in every discipline, because that's what it is.
I have to believe it's possible that it could be, and right now I don't, because like,
oh, interesting.
Like I was playing with an AI and it couldn't figure out a visual task. I wanted it to draw a schematic symbol. We needed an 8-segment display schematic symbol, which is a very hard one. And like, that's a hard thing to give it, but also it was just so off the entire time. It couldn't figure it out. And it was using the visual tokens too, so it had that feedback loop. And I'm like, I don't know, like if you told me that we'll probably solve this problem, but if you told me we'd solve every problem with the current ways we're doing things, I wouldn't believe you. Not yet.
Maybe okay, maybe not the current ways we're doing things. Yeah. But so you would only call something artificial general intelligence if it were exceeding humans in every way.
Yeah, it's the only way I would care about the term, is if I believed that AGI could beat beat
you expected
the best human at every task. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So maybe you should class it as like a little bracketed, extremely good artificial general intelligence.
Because the thing is when people sell you on the singularity and all that, they're saying that.
Oh, well, now we're just talking about a cult, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you believe that AGI is coming, don't you believe it'll eventually surpass humans at everything? Like, aren't these like hand in hand?
Yeah, I think, look, don't get me wrong. I don't think, it's not like I don't think it'll continue to improve from here or we have the right architecture. And maybe this is an argument of definitions, right?
Yeah.
But God, are they good, right now?
Oh, they're amazing.
It's incredible.
They're amazing. Life is infinitely better. And the first like governments to take advantage of LLMs, like what is a legal system but just a set of basically
words on paper?
Yeah, words on paper, and people who are vetted for reasonable responses, right? Judges are people who they're honorable because they say reasonable things. That's like my like abstract.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
30 years of just being reasonable, and
and people are like, look, seems like a good bloke. We'll let him in.
Yeah, very honorable.
Very honorable.
What is honor but keeping your word?
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's kind of a black box approach as well. That's all we do with people is we learn, we train, and then we get checked and people are like, well, Matt's a good guy. Seve's a good guy. Okay, check some box and you are now certified whatever, picks your certified something, but it's black box testing. It's not, you don't get in the weeds. You can't prove it's going to discreetly work in every case. And so it's pretty similar to validating a neural net.
Yeah. Okay, I just remembered a piece of trivia for you.
Please,
and it's kind of related. Have you heard the expression "mandate of heaven"?
No.
You've never heard of this?
No,
okay.
no.
So mandate of heaven, it turns out it's a very, very old Chinese thing. I did not know this.
Okay.
But mandate of heaven means that heaven has, and heaven is kind of like a different thing in China, but heaven has given you the right to rule. Okay.
I see.
But the mandate of heaven is a concept that heaven can sometimes decide that if you're not doing a good job, if you're not a good steward, you lose that. And it goes to somebody else.
Interesting.
So the mandate of heaven is used to justify rebellions. And something that I think Gary Tan has said it, like you can lose, he'll say like, oh, like open source projects often get the mandate of heaven, but they can also lose it. Like WordPress, and doing all this stuff, like they lost it. They weren't a good steward, and now people don't trust them. They don't want them to win.
Yeah.
But when
it's like a blessing of the universe, if I were to summarize it another way.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep.
It's a blessing of the universe that you can lose, which I think is a very interesting. I always thought mandate of heaven meant heaven forever, perpetual.
Like the English crown. More of like, you are the king and therefore whatever you do is perfect. But that's not quite true.
Yeah.
It's a much more nuanced way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah. I really like it. I really like it in the context of open source.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I agree.
Let's talk about Willow. So Google releases a new AI quantum computer chip.
What's the AI part of this quantum computing? Do they just need some more funding or something?
Wait, I'm totally wrong. No, it's just a quantum chip. You're right.
Thank God.
Okay, so we've got the Willow quantum AI, or the quantum chip. What do you make of this?
So it's really interesting because they've figured out, it's the first time someone's commercialized this ability to discretize and reduce the error rates of quantum computing in like a semi-scalable way. I think the gist of it is they combine the results of something like 30 qubits to have like one logical qubit, like a reliable qubit that you can do discrete operations with and trust holistically, because with quantum computers, they try to get them really cold so you don't end up with all this thermal error or error from thermal noise and bits and pieces leaching in. And they've come up with another way to reduce that makes Willow actually viable to do a lot of stuff with at reasonable temperatures, extremely cold, but doesn't actually have to be absolute zero. Right.
And I guess what Willow is doing really well on is like quantum computing benchmarks. So it's beat IBM and some other people at these quantum computing benchmarks.
Yeah.
The thing is, the tasks it's solving are kind of just kind of computing like randomness.
Yeah.
And so it seems like nobody has found a practical algorithm that you can do.
I didn't want to leap straight into shitting on quantum computers.
No, I'm so excited about quantum computers.
Why? For what?
Because I love the idea that we have these really expensive operations right now that could possibly be done instantly. They have small input and small output. So like there's no reason why they couldn't. If you could find something that could do them instantly, that'd be amazing. If you had an LLM that could execute instantly, I could run 1,000 possibilities, 1,000 evaluators, stuff like that. So it's very exciting to be able to do that instantly.
And the quantum computers, see, I haven't actually heard really any tangible applications of at least today's quantum computers. I've heard theoretical cryptographic type stuff and simulations of physical phenomena and nuclear explosions and can they be used as AI accelerators?
I so far it seems like there's not nobody has solved that yet.
What to do with them?
Yeah, what to do with them?
Interesting.
I haven't heard any practical. People say it breaks cryptography. Actually, with the Willow news, this is all speculative, but with the Willow news, Bitcoin dropped from like 103 to 97K.
No.
So it unbroke 100K because a lot of people were saying, well, Bitcoin's over.
Yeah, you can rewrite the ledger if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting.
And but then it went back up because there were all these refutes and saying, well, Google's got this thing. They've got a whole lab and they're clearly working on this, but nobody has figured out. There's like a lot of things to solve still.
How does one short Bitcoin?
How does one short Bitcoin? That's
Because
a good question.
it's not protected by the SEC in the same way that stocks are.
No.
So is insider trading still applicable? Like if you worked at Google and you knew that you were about to release some technology that could that could destroy the blockchain, or at least the Bitcoin's approach of the blockchain, the cryptography that it specifically uses. Because we do have hardened algorithms. I'm way out of my depth there, but I have seen I have seen advertised at least hardened cryptography algorithms.
That's right.
But as Bitcoin doesn't use them as far as I'm aware. And so if you knew this, though, would it be legal to short Bitcoin?
I guess it would be. So you could make a lot of money.
Wow. That's an interesting
especially with the
prospect.
current Bitcoin value. But you would also have to believe that the market, like Bitcoin is a little bit irrational. So you would have to believe that the market will be rational about your news. And if you actually do have the capabilities, you can make more money by doing something even nastier to Bitcoin, right?
Like rewriting the ledger?
Right.
At what point, though, do you actually end up in financial crimes territory? Because tampering with financial IT infrastructure is seriously illegal.
That's true.
At some point, do we just have to look at Bitcoin as financial infrastructure?
That's a good point. I mean, there are governments. Like El Salvador. There are governments with a Bitcoin fund.
So I would have a warrant in El Salvador is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah, and then you probably wouldn't want to be the person to do it, but you might want to be the one to sell the technology to the person who does it.
Okay.
It's a very lucrative. Maybe get some upside on it.
Okay,
I don't know.
So look, I sincerely hope that there is some more useful application for quantum computers. I think really the biggest problem is I've heard a lot of people I respect hugely and are really intelligent absolutely revel in it. They're saying it's going to be revolutionary.
Right.
And I say, so cool. Explain to me why. And they say something that doesn't really translate into math,
Yeah.
Like I am pretty dumb. So that makes sense to me. But I'm looking for someone to bridge that gap for me and explain what, at least in the not too distant future, even the long future, these quantum computers can do.
Yeah, my understanding right now is you have to verify the output. And like as long as that verification takes...
That's what the logical qubits breaks. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, really?
That's the premise, yeah. Because it was this error code, this error injection from thermals and noise and etc. that was killing the performance. And so that's why, at least my understanding of why this is such a big step.
Well, I'm very excited about it being it sounds like it's in a chip form factor. It doesn't sound like it's going to be like available. Maybe if you're like a research place, you could buy this chip. Because normally when you look at quantum computers, aren't they in these big like...
Yeah,
things?
you have to get them cold.
Really, really
so
the
cold.
fact that it's in a chip, I mean, like, how do you get innovation in this space? You probably just give stuff to a lot of people. That's kind of what happened with VR. Like, they gave out crap, cardboard.
Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah. It takes a while, but that's how you set the seeds, I guess, and get somebody to figure out something useful.
Hopefully. Sincerely cool. The other one, actually, that leads well into the other thing you sent me, Seve, was an AR accelerator chip that was going in the rim or the band, I guess, the arm of your glasses. It was tiny.
Yeah.
And it was basically AR GPU, if I remember.
Yes. So this chip is created for Xreal.
What's it called?
It's called the Xreal X1. Yeah.
Is this a Chinese company? I've noticed they really love to prefix names with X. I don't know if they've just got it off Elon or inherited it from somewhere, but
I know Xreal is like I've looked at Xreal. Have you ever looked at Xreal?
No,
like seriously as a purchaser? So Xreal has currently I think like the best like lightweight AR solution. If you were looking to watch a movie on a plane, you'd probably be looking at Xreal if you wanted something like lighter than a Vision Pro is going to be like your carry-on.
Yeah, so big.
Yeah, I don't even think I would want to have it like under my seat because it's too valuable for that. And somebody's
you're supposed to put it on your head, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. But and then but Xreal actually looks like glasses. They're fairly lightweight. There's a lot of problems, but it can stream from your phone, so you can basically do anything you were doing on your phone.
Yep. And so these are currently commercially available.
These are currently commercially available.
Have you tried some on?
I haven't tried an Xreal yet. Okay. Yeah, but I'm like my girlfriend works at Meta, so I'm like
cool.
I'm like, oh, I'll do Meta Ray-Bans first and stuff like that. But if I had expendable income, I'd buy all of it. Xreal is a Chinese company headquartered in Beijing.
There you go.
So they have
That giveaway, the X at the front of the name seems to be the way to go.
So the reason they built a new chip is they wanted ultra low latency for real-time immersion, seamless data flow with host devices, and universal compatibility with phones, PCs, consoles, and more.
Interesting.
And off-the-shelf chips couldn't meet the racks with a low cost and high performance.
I wonder if this is a domestically manufactured IC, because China has been, to at least some degree, or at least a lot of Chinese companies have been cut off from TSMC and Taiwan, at least for the extremely high-grade chips and the design tools for that matter. A lot of Chinese companies have been sanctioned. So I wonder if they're going through through the same fabs as Huawei, who manufactured their latest phone processors, to everyone's astonishment, at a really small node. I think it was like 7 nanometers domestically in China.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. I wonder what instruction set it runs. We need to get a breakdown.
Oh, interesting.
Of that. Because I wonder if they went all risk on it, or if they have like...
It's a risky bet.
Do you think it's a risky bet?
No, I mean, at this point, someone needs to bankroll the tool chain. You know, we saw this with Apple and ARM. Like, ARM was used in phones and bespoke OSs, et cetera, for a long time. But it was when Apple made their MacBooks ARM-based that the LLVM ARM compilers got really good and the infrastructure got great. And so all of a sudden, there were like OpenCV Python binaries that were available and were easy to make and et cetera. You know, it really unlocked the tooling unlocked a whole new generation of high quality open source.
Yeah.
Well, it happens slow and then fast, as with any revolution.
Slow and fast.
Oh, yeah, incredible stuff.
It's really interesting. Did you hear TSMC set up in Arizona a chip foundry?
Yeah.
And they're doing 2 nanometers, which is
2 nanometers.
That's I believe that's
Wow.
the yields. People were commenting that the yield might not be good or something like that. But
I couldn't see what the difference was anyway. So,
but I guess that's a really big deal. And who knows what nanometers means anymore?
At least it's fairly consistent within a company.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're on their own protocol. You can tell that it's roughly 30% better than their current Taiwanese 3 nanometer nodes.
I don't know. But everybody kind of expected this to be a little bit of a failure. Like, we didn't believe in ourselves, as Americans. Like, because TSMC, I guess, was complaining that like the
you're all lazy,
working as hard.
Sorry,
there were a lot of
nicer way to
problems.
phrase it. Yeah,
but somehow it looks like they pulled it off with like yield that seems to be okay. Some people said, "Oh, yield's bad," but like it might be okay. So we might see chips manufactured in the US in our iPhones or something.
Hell yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
that'd be crazy.
As much fun as I make of it, I do think that there's a pretty bright future to American manufacturing.
Yeah,
and I think that there's probably a decent section of the country who maybe didn't necessarily want a foreign company to come in with the expertise, because there's been America's role for a long time is bringing the expertise and investment. And so when you flip that relationship around, I think there's probably, unsurprisingly, a little friction, but I'm glad it's working.
The thing with TSMC and Taiwan in general is like they're very similar to us, just Chinese. And TSMC, the founder is is an American citizen, Taiwanese American citizen. So like it's very much
intermixed.
Yeah, it's an intermixed.
You could say a lot for most of humanity. They're just like us with Chinese characteristics,
What is that from, with Chinese characters?
The CCP uses it as a descriptor when they create, a policy that was against the original Communist Party doctrine of, whatever. We're going to have capitalism with.
Oh, that's
we're gonna,
right.
We're going to have a free market with Chinese characteristics, because you couldn't say we're going to have a free. We killed 20 million people over not having a free market, but this free market's with our own characteristics. It sounds better that way. It's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
What about Intel? So this is actually surprising. I made a bit of a bet on Intel personally. I bought stock about 3 years ago, and I was optimistic that with their new CEO at the time, I can't remember his name.
I think it's Pat something. Is that something?
Yeah, plausibly. Who, a new CEO and a heck of a lot of investment and the desire to bring back American manufacturing and Western manufacturing. that that's all you'd need. Maybe they would realize pretty quickly that this ARM orientation makes a lot of sense, or that they would get into NVIDIA's game as well. But it doesn't seem to have materialized. And their fabs seem to be fine, but they're not, they're now selling off, or at least they were at the time, selling off excess manufacturing capacity, which is a great idea, I think. It's worthwhile getting into that game if you've got the expertise. But it doesn't seem to be going so well for them.
No, I mean, they just ousted their CEO. So,
yeah. So clearly not great.
So, yeah, but the sad thing about that is the CEO of Intel was kind of a technical person. So they're probably going to replace him. We had the whole Boeing situation.
Yeah,
right?
It was another Boeing. It really was. Yeah.
Well, I think they had a technical leader Intel, and they're probably going to bring in like a Boeing-like CEO, right? Like a number cruncher.
Well, I hope they get another technical leader, because at least from the outside, from what I could tell was going on, is they had this absolute behemoth that needed to be wrangled so people had a sense of urgency again.
Yeah.
We've discussed this many times, but you need a sense of urgency in any company for it to remain functional. And, you put it on a spectrum. The government's at one end, you go to the DMV, little sense of urgency. It's not surprising. Things take a little while, right? Although I say that, and I've actually had a pretty good experience with the DMV here.
It's funny. The DMV here is kind of okay.
In California, it seems fine. But anyway, other states, let's just theoretically say that. And then on the other end of things, you have a young startup and it's like, hey guys, we can afford ramen and we don't have any more money after next week. Let's go. You get things done.
Yeah.
And when you're Intel, you've been big. Either you say, well, life's over. It's been a long cycle. Thanks for the ride, Intel. Goodbye. Which sucks. Like, let's not. They've got these incredible resources and expertise and whatnot. Or you can bring in leadership that knows how to rejuvenate that and energize people. Yeah. And, whether you love him or hate him, I think that is one thing that Elon is extremely good at, despite the size of the organizations that he now commands, is keeping everyone in there energized.
Are we entering a celebrity CEO era?
100%. Hell yeah.
If you're a CEO, you have to be a celebrity. I actually...
maybe the other way around, but yeah.
Oh, wait.
If you want to be a successful CEO, you should try be a celebrity.
Oh, I see what you're
saying.
Not
like the status of CEO.
We don't want to bring in celebrity. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, yeah, that's true. That's true. I do like, there are CEOs who, in the web space, like I want as angels,
Okay, yeah.
Like, because... And that's because of their celebrity status.
Any names? They might be listening.
So, Guillermo Ranch, CEO of Xreal.
Okay.
Come on, man. React for electronics. Get in on this. But there's also like the CTO of GitHub. I forget his name.
Current, past?
I think the past, but man, his name gets listed
Tom Preston
all
Warner?
the time. Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Or Nat Friedman.
Yeah, okay.
Was he the CTO or CEO? I think he was the CEO.
I know Tom. I've never met Nat, so yeah, I can make an introduction if you like.
Both of them, I think, are fairly prolific or recognizable.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Are there any CEOs, CTOs, like celebrity angels you would want?
I think this is the other way around. I think the CEO as a celebrity is dangerous, because the thing about companies that does actually one thing about companies at least that makes them so productive is that they're run as autocracies, typically speaking, right? And so if you have this big celebrity-headed autocracy, you think about, Syria's just rebelled against the Assad regime and kicked him out.
Yeah.
Now, that type of dictator is the type that wants to be a celebrity, right? Like there's an archetype to it. Gaddafi was the same, right? And so you don't want someone who makes a cult of personality out of a successful company, in my opinion, running these now incredibly large organizations. Like we're talking about market capitalization that dwarfs most economies, right?
Yeah.
Like seriously, a lot of the world's economies.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine for productivity perspective if that's what you focus on as a company. But as soon as it becomes a personality thing, you're imparting morals and quote unquote wisdom and all sorts of things alongside.
Yeah.
We are on a mission to make a great product. And I think separating the two is much healthier as a society.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I guess like the celebrity CEO phenomenon is really like, it's like a founder CEO thing, right? Like if you're bringing in somebody to run it, like it's kind of different. I don't know. People say Tim Cook was like this incredible guy to bring in. Have you ever heard this?
No, I mean, explain.
Tim Cook did very well with Apple, I think.
I think they're making good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot of cool things, but kind of like not like a new product. I'll be the only product innovation. I think Tim Cook era was AirPods. I think that's the only like
from the ground up kind of innovation.
Yeah, from the ground up. I would say AirPods and then Apple Vision Pro. If it was successful, we could say that. But
I would put their new processors in that bucket too.
See, so the processors I don't see as like a human. I don't know how to describe it. Like a product innovation. It's a optimization is how I see it.
Interesting.
I love it. I think it's incredible, and I think like Tim Cook should be lauded for that. That's great. But like,
it's not a new product category.
It's not like Steve Jobs-esque, like I'm going to change how people AirPods are the exception. AirPods looked dumb when you first put them in your ears and walked around.
Yeah.
I think everybody felt a little weird with things sticking out of their ears. But now that's normalized and it's getting even more normalized. I just got this last week. You can now do a hearing test. And it can act as a hearing aid.
Oh, incredible.
AirPods. Yeah. I have Pro 2s. So
just a little dial up there, you know?
Yeah, just a little dial up or whatever. The thing is a lot of people have hearing. I mean, who doesn't know somebody
Can
with
it give
hearing
you like
loss?
bat hearing and you just like point them over somewhere and you can hear like a conversation 30 meters away? Like, what are we talking here?
Directional hearing. I think it just amplifies or sometimes protects your ears from loud sounds.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Around you. Yeah.
Ideally not too loud, you know?
Yeah. But my point is they've taken something that was socially like controversial and now it's going to be something where people are just going to go about their everyday lives.
It's category defining.
Yeah.
Right? Was the Apple Watch also under Tim Cook's watch?
I think it was, but also like the Apple Watch is not innovative. I think tons of people did it.
Yeah.
I literally don't even think that I could be wrong about this, but I don't even remember before the AirPods if there was people who had the case, right? That you charge your things. I used to buy wireless AirPods, but they always they had a string around the back of my neck.
Yeah.
So I literally don't even think anybody had. I don't know if you could have without the software ecosystem to support the easy Bluetooth pairing and all of that. Like you need really robust software to pull it off.
Interesting. It's an interesting one. I think that you're right in that there's been fewer category defining, like the iPods and the iPad were unique in their categories, at least the caliber wise at the time, and the iPhone for that matter.
Yeah.
They really made the class of products, right? And kind of used as a Kleenex like generic term sense, which is, mark of honor for sure. It's interesting. The AirPods and the watch took the markets by storm. The watch was the most sold watch in the world overnight, right? Of any brand, of any model, etc. And so, I mean, that's extremely impressive. But I think you're right in saying that, like, it kind of just shrunk. Interesting. It is an interesting. I actually haven't got a strong opinion about it.
So like the Apple Watch, yes, it destroyed a category, but that was because of their
manufacturing prowess.
No. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it's super quality. I have one, but they had that software ecosystem. What is it called? Walled garden.
Yeah.
So they just added something to the walled garden. You shouldn't win just because of your walled garden.
Yeah.
It is. So if you took out the walled garden,
that's an interesting test. I like that.
Win?
Yeah. I do like that test.
I don't think it would win. I think a Garmin would win actually if you took out the walled garden.
Interesting.
Because Garmin's have a lot of features.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more pricey sometimes, but they have a lot more features.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Generally. They also have a model. They have a model for everyone. They want you to buy like 4 of the things rather than just upgrading constantly. It's a different model from a different place. Do you know where they're headquartered?
I don't.
I think it's like Arkansas or something like that. Really? They have a big. It's like a middle US state. Big like Garmin's based out of there.
I have like wanted to. I talk about Boise a lot because like, wouldn't you want to be like the hot company of Boise? Don't you just want to be popular where you are?
Where's Boise? Come on, mate.
Boise, Idaho.
How many people live there?
That's a good question. I don't know, but it is the capital of Boise, so it's gonna be.
Is the capital of Idaho?
Sorry, capital of Idaho. Yeah. Let's see.
How do you spell that?
It's spelled like this. Boise.
Boise.
Yeah, a lot of people say like boys or.
Hey, boys.
Okay. While we're waiting on that, let's see.
The population of Boise.
Okay. As of 2023, Boise had 235,000 people.
Cool. Okay. Could you point at Melbourne on a map?
Melbourne is the south east side of Australia.
Oh, there you go. Congratulations.
I just learned this
Okay.
a week ago.
Right. And population guess.
Oh, it's probably bigger. It's probably like 2 mil, 3 mil.
5 million.
5 million.
Yeah.
Wow, it's huge.
And so, so it's actually what's wild because Boston only has 500,000 people, right? And everyone's heard.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about Boston. What people refer to as Boston is not
like
what people
Greater
consider
Boston.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Boston. I lived in Boston. You could walk across Boston in 20 minutes, like Boston proper.
Yeah.
But the Boston Greater, which I like
yeah.
much more. Like all my favorite places are not in Boston.
Yeah, it's like the American media machine is incredible because everyone knows about what Boston's it's a weird example, but like this litany of tiny, like St. Louis, Missouri, I've heard of and have some rough idea of what it is.
Yeah.
And it's tiny. It's like 500,000 people as well, in like the greater areas, from what I understand. And the difference being that it's like 500,000 person city. It's a tenth of the size of my home city. And, most people couldn't point at it. The American media machine's done a great job of popularizing like your map. It's really amazing.
Dude, like Taipei and all these other like cramped cities.
Oh, yeah.
Like, holy moly, there's so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tens of millions at that point.
Yeah, it does make me like San Francisco is so like diametrically opposed to how it like how we build,
Oh, yeah.
Like Taipei, I'm like, they're like, yeah, build it taller.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go to the sky.
Is there more room in the sky? Well, then keep going.
keep going. And then like in San Francisco, they're like, if you go over 3 stories, you might obstruct a view. And it's like, what am I looking at? No, San Francisco is very pretty, but
it's a gorgeous place to be.
I do wish it was not so expensive. Okay, there's one chip I want to hit, although this will be very quick.
Please.
I just saw this and probably one of the most interesting.
I see it on your screen.
Yeah.
So this is the IMX 500. It's a Sony image sensor with the AI processor directly on the back of it. It is a cool image sensor. And they've also just released it. So that Sony has partnered with Raspberry Pi on this one because it's the official Raspberry Pi AI camera is based around the Sony chip, which is really cool because it means the developer kit for it is actually going to be good.
Yeah. So when you buy the Raspberry Pi camera, it has this chip kind of like on the same PCB as the camera. Is that right?
So the camera, this is an image sensor. The IMX 500 is an image sensor and AI accelerator, either in the same chip, on the same die, probably not, but in the same package basically is what the important part is there. And then from Raspberry Pi, they put this image sensor on a breakout board basically.
Yeah.
And there's an RP2040 as well because it's the image sensor has an SPI interface.
Whoa. This is huge.
It has an SPI interface, and so it does the conversion to I2C, and the ribbon cable that you plug into your camera interface on your Raspberry Pi 5 has, or probably all of them, has I2C. It's typically used for configuration of the sensor, like exposure, brightness, whatnot. But in this case, it'll also feed back whatever output you have of the network running on your image sensor, which is cool.
So universe before, I want to do a vision application. I want to count how many people are in a room, right? That's going to be a pipeline because I got to get the data from my camera probably to the cloud because I probably can't even do the processing on a Raspberry Pi. Maybe if I use YOLO or something, I can get the processing there, but that's going to be, it's embedded development.
Painful.
It's painful. So you're going to have to set up a whole pipeline. That's going to take a couple weeks. Now, basically, in essence, your camera is just telling you how many people are in the room. You say, camera, how many people are in the room? It's saying 8 people.
Yeah.
Incredible. And that's the data going over the line. So you don't have any... or you don't have any high data lines you have to deal with.
Yeah. And the throughput is bonkers on it too, right? Because it's coupled directly on the package, which means that it can only run a really small network. It's only 2 million parameters from, if I remember correctly. So it's, small network you're able to run, but it can do it at, I think it was saying 120 frames a second, if not 60, which means that for any robotics applications, like if you're going to have a self-flying drone, for example, you can live get it to infer walls and, geometry to avoid, for example, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my hands on one.
Yeah. So it has 2 million parameters and you can tweak the network yourself.
So it's supported platform, whatever you want to call it, is TensorFlow Lite. So if you have a TensorFlow Lite network, you can upload it to this, practically speaking, and you're good to go.
Oh my gosh. So cool. So cool. I've talked about this now like 5 times, but this enables anonymized. I think we're evolving into a low trust society.
Oh,
and
that's dangerous. let's try not. But
I'm just looking at the trend line. It's like people are becoming lonelier. That's the trend line.
Sure.
It's not what I want.
Yeah.
We're becoming a low trust society, which means stuff like people graffitiing bathrooms is going to become more common. So how do you detect that without recording people in bathrooms, right? And anonymized cameras that just say, is somebody graffitiing the bathroom at this time? And then you maybe have a camera outside that identifies the person or something. That's how you can kind of start to get at these problems. You don't want to record people in a bathroom, but if you just have a sensor that says somebody is doing something bad in a bathroom, and then you follow up right after, and there's a bad thing right there, then
then you can arrest them.
You can put them in jail.
You can decrement their social credit score.
It's a good question because like this is the SF problem is like punishment. Does punishment work or does, we don't.
They don't really do any of the above here.
We tried not doing anything and that didn't work.
That didn't work. The anarchy was.
Then we tried rewarding it and that didn't work.
Rewarding the bad behavior. Yeah, that didn't go so well.
Because we were giving out drugs. I mean, for better or worse, right? Drug testing sites. And we were like, all right, well, let's wean you off. And we were giving some drugs.
Didn't go so well, I would say, on net.
I can't make head. I don't even want to comment out because it's such a complex thing. I feel like there's nothing you can say that won't have 90. Normally, you say something wrong, 50% of people are mad at you. In this situation, I feel like 90% of people are mad at you, no matter what you say. It's like there's so much nuance and stuff like that. Like there are drugs that stop people from overdosing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, these should be like all over the place, right? But then, are you enabling overdosing? It's like,
well, actually, it's incredible stuff. But the other one with Narcan, it's wild, right? So the actual drug itself is, its patent's expired by a while, right? So it's really cheap. It's like $2 a dose or something, really cheap. But the little spray bottle is patented for the next 15 years, and so the spray applicator is the thing that makes it go from $2 to $120.
Yeah,
I think we might need a little bit of a rework on that patent system.
This is something I'm really worried about, and I think it affects.
Particularly, there's a reason we're both open source companies and open core companies, I should say.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, something I worry about all the time is I might have awesome like designs. Like people might be building awesome things in tscircuit, and they literally, if they manufacture and sell it. Yeah. It'll be a patent violation. And that's going to be an emerging problem with this mix of software and hardware, right?
I think it's probably a good thing,
It might be a good thing. Like, there are parts of the patent system I don't necessarily hate. Like, there is a kernel of goodness to it.
The idea is not poorly intentioned.
Right.
By no means. I agree.
Right.
Absolutely.
But, like thinking about like somebody like like this application right now, the nasal applicant thing.
Come on, guys, get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, man, I don't know. Maybe it's truly novel, but it kind of looks like a spray can. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's a spray can. No, so there's a spectrum to this, right? Like it's really actually quite hard to get a software patent. They're not granted often. In comparison to others. Yeah. And then you'll go all the way down to medical patents, and like you're not doing anything without a patent. And there's some like reasonableness to this because you actually do need a long time to make the commercialization of a drug pay off its development. That does make sense.
Yeah.
But when you then start abusing that protective system to make it go from 20 to 40 years, or you've hidden some secret development of some tweak, which is literally what companies do. They'll hide some improvement to the drug they had from day zero so they can get another patent extension for another 20 years. Yeah. Well, those are some companies and behaviors that make you really question the morality of that group of people, frankly. Beyond just the companies, the group of people involved in that, you really got to ask it. Are they good people?
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate recently with the Luigi assassination of the United CEO. There's been a lot of debate about like why healthcare is bad in the U.S. And one thing that people are saying is that, okay, why is healthcare more expensive here? And they say, well, American companies come up with a lot of the drugs.
Yep.
And they're not able to enforce their patents globally because people might have more reasonable patent policies, whatever. They're not able to sell their drugs as highly.
Yeah.
So US people pay more for the development.
Complete bullshit.
You think it's bullshit?
No, it's complete bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Firstly, a lot of this drug development and a lot of development in general is done in overseas. Melbourne, for example, has an enormous biomedical industry. Austria, Switzerland, enormous biomedical manufacturers, and they've developed like an inordinate number of these drugs too. So it's just not true that America is shouldering most of this burden. America is certainly making a lot of esoteric drugs that you don't really need, but it cures something for some old person who has 6 months more to live, but now looks prettier because of it. Which I don't mean to denigrate it, but it's just like they make a lot of unimportant drugs, relatively speaking.
Okay.
But then if you go further through it, it's drugs are typically a seller's market, because if you're in a circumstance, you have cancer, for argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
And well, your life is literally hinged on this. You're going to do absolutely anything you possibly can to fund your survival. It's pretty simple, really.
Right.
And so it makes sense that American companies or American drug companies would stretch in absolutely every market to the limits of that market, how much money they can wean out of it. It makes, I don't think there's a much of a logical jump there to see that obviously they're stretching Americans the most. I think they're really doing I think, and it really speaks to the assassination of, what was his name, Brian, United Healthcare. Yeah. It's I was actually mostly surprised that it hadn't happened sooner. No, I'm not. No, morality out of it. Firstly, I should say, fuck murderers. Don't murder people.
Don't
right?
murder people.
Like, to be really clear about my stance on this.
Well, don't murder me.
Okay. You want to pass it over as well, Seve?
Matt, maybe just beat him up a bit. No, I'm kidding. Don't murder
and
people.
Aside, don't murder people, right? Like, fuck that guy. But you do have to look at how the response to it has been incredible, because people are coming out and defending this murderer, Luigi, and saying that that Brian deserved alleged murderer. Sorry, the health insurer CEOs deserve it and whatnot. And maybe if we take the morality out of it and we say what's inevitable and what's not, or what's inevitable and what's unlikely, if you're in a circumstance where your company is making decisions pretty much tyrannically, like with few checks about the survival of people, their loved ones, etc., it's not surprising that at some point someone, and you're doing this for hundreds of thousands of people, that one of those people says, well, I disagree with you. You have single-handedly, practically decided that my loved one wasn't worth keeping alive because your profit margins for your investors were too slim. And I'm enraged by this. Mm-hmm. And in a society where you have prolific firearms and a Second Amendment that practically gives you a green card on, this is to fight tyranny. That is literally the stated purpose of firearms in this country, right? You can understand why someone might understand that as a tyranny of the insurance companies and go fight against it. And so if you leave the system set up as it is, it seems inevitable to me that this would happen.
Do we know if it was a purchase gun? For some reason, I thought it was like a 3D printed gun. I don't think anybody is saved from guns in the 3D printing era. I think
it's a pretty big barrier. No, it's a pretty big barrier.
It must have been a real gun. He shot it 3 times.
No, I mean, even if it was 3D printed, right? It's actually kind of irrelevant, because the expertise required to 3D print a functioning firearm is common amongst us and our friends, but it's not prolific, globally, right?
Yeah.
And
it's how accessible it is.
Yeah.
Just making it kind of more accessible by having,
Right. And there's an Australian comedian that did a great bit on gun control in the States like 7 years ago, right? And he's saying these laws were written when muskets were around, and he's like, "All right, screw you, you're done." Whips out his musket and he's hammering the thing down. And after 30 seconds of getting the powder in and the ball, he's like, "Oh, I'm not that mad, am I?" He puts it away.
It's kind of the idea with a duel too, is you have 24 hours to think it over.
Yeah, right.
You know how you used to challenge people to a duel and you walk out the next day and people would fire it up a lot. It's kind of like, yeah, we thought about it. Yeah. And then the other person, if they don't fire it up, that's pretty...
They would be shunned in society.
Yeah,
right?
They would be shunned. It would be like, dude,
come on, you didn't have to shoot Bob. We liked Bob. Yeah, no, for sure. So look, I viewed it as kind of inevitable in the set of circumstances we've set up. It was just a chance, or was a set of probabilities that were just imminent, and so we should fix that situation pretty simply. You know,
kind of hints at what I was saying earlier too, like lower trust society, right? Yeah, but.
And the CEO celebrity type thing. You know how many of those CEOs removed their Wikipedia pages afterwards?
Really?
Yeah. Oh, well, unsurprisingly, right?
Yeah. I mean, also just like kind of hinting at this, like you're not a founder CEO. I don't know what that guy could have done. You know, he can't fix the healthcare system on his own. He'd probably destroy the company if he did. Maybe that would be the best thing. Maybe people could argue that would be the best thing. But chances are it would be, it's like not something he could even do. The board would remove him.
No, the board would definitely remove him. It's a bigger system. It's a tyranny of the system, basically, not a tyranny of the individual. But we should probably still try address it.
Yeah.
It's regardless.
Yeah.
And I think we can. I think there's a lot of optimism to be had, maybe not out of that specifically, but in the future.
I think United Healthcare, I believe their administrative costs are like 50% of their costs, right? And I think that I'm pretty sure that LLMs can replace 99% of the administrative costs. Like approvals should be done. And I know there's a lot of people working on this slowly, gradually, but I'm really hoping those administrative costs just get eaten down to nothing, and that'll be a little bit better at least.
It'll be roughly 50% better.
Yeah.
We can do a heck of a lot better, and I think we will, optimistically. We should, we can aim towards it. There's nothing stopping us.
Absolutely. Well, that we deviated from electronics a little bit, but I support it.
You support it. Yeah. Seve, thanks for talking to me again today.
Matt, good to see you.
Have a good one.
See you.